In the Old Norse tellings, the world was young and dangerous, and the names of families were carried like swords. The Volsungs were one such name. Their hall stood among fells where the wind never learned to be polite, and their stories were not told to comfort children. They were told to warn the brave. This is the tale of Sigurd, who was fostered by a smith who loved gold more than the boy, and who rode out to slay a dragon that had once been a man. It is about a sword reforged from broken pieces, a horse given by a wanderer who might have been a god, and a heart roasted over a fire that taught the hero to hear what birds say when men are too proud to listen. The dragon Fafnir did not fall because the world was fair. He fell because a young man learned, step by step, that treasure guarded by poison is still poison when the guard is dead. If you remember anything, remember the forge, the track on the stone, and the knife that came afterward. Sigurd grew tall in Regin's forge, where the bellows roared like a small winter, and the anvil answered in iron language. Regin was a smith of great skill and small mercy. He taught the boy to mend bridles and to laugh at fear, and he taught him also to want what was not yet his. In the evenings, Regin spoke of a hoard on the Heath called Gnidahide, and of a brother who had become something no brother should become. When Sigurd was old enough to carry a blade without staggering, Regin laid broken pieces before him. The sword had belonged to Sigurd's father. It had been shattered in old quarrels. Regin said, "If you are truly a Volsung, make it whole." Sigurd worked until his arms shook. The metal took the fire and lost its grudge. When the blade came out of the water, it sang along the edge, a thin, bright note that made Regin's eyes narrow with greed he did not bother to hide. Regin said, "Now you are ready for the Heath." He did not say, "Now you are ready to be used." Sigurd heard the silence under the praise and stored it away, the way hunters store a second arrow. On the high road, a wanderer in a blue hood stopped the boy and asked why a Volsung walked without a mount worthy of the name. Sigurd answered that worthy was a word men used when they meant expensive. The wanderer smiled as if the answer pleased him and pointed to a gray colt among the herd. "Take that one," he said, "and call him Grani." Then he was gone between two birches, and the horse was left breathing steam into the cold air as if it had been waiting. Grani carried Sigurd over passes where the snow lay in blue shadows, and the sky looked close enough to strike with a spear. Ravens turned above the track. The wind brought the smell of old smoke from the direction of Gnidahide. Sigurd did not hurry. Men who hurry toward dragon gold often arrive as offerings. At a ford, he saw the wanderer again, or another man with the same eyes. The stranger spoke of courage and of choosing a path that fear had not already chosen for you. Sigurd listened. He had learned that wisdom sometimes wore a borrowed cloak. Gnidahide was not beautiful. It was a place where the earth had been scraped to bone. Black rock and yellow grass and a track worn by something heavy, dragging itself toward the same destination for years. Sigurd followed the track until the stones were scored with claw marks deep enough to hide a fist. The cave mouth breathed warmth that did not belong to winter. Gold glinted inside like trapped sun. Sigurd set his shield and tested the wind. He could hear a pulse in the dark, slow and patient, the heartbeat of a creature that had forgotten it was once a man named Fafnir and remembered only Hoard and hunger. Regin's voice had said the dragon slept at noon. Sigurd did not trust a dragon's schedule. He trusted the sword, the horse behind him on the ridge, and the old warning that greed makes even monsters predictable. Fafnir came out of the cave like a hill deciding to move. His scales were green-black and his eyes were coins with pupils. Poison trailed from his jaws and ate the grass. Sigurd did not shout a hero's speech. He dug his heels into the earth and let the dragon spend its weight on his shield. The fight was not a dance. It was iron and heat and the shriek of a creature that had owned a mountain of gold and could not believe a boy would not kneel. Sigurd drove the reforged blade into the soft place under the arm. The dragon convulsed. Gold scattered. The air tasted of metal and rotten courage. When Fafnir fell, the Heath went quiet in the way a storm goes quiet after the last tree breaks. Sigurd stood on the hoard with his boots among coins and bones and old promises. The dragon's blood smoked on the stones. Ravens came down from the rim as if they had been invited. Regin rode up when the danger was finished, as cowards often do. He praised Sigurd and pointed to the dragon's heart roasting on a fire the boy had made. "Eat it," he said, "and you will know all tongues." Sigurd turned the heart with a stick and thought of the brother Regin had not mourned. The juice spat. A drop burned Sigurd's thumb. He sucked the blood without thinking, and the world opened a door he had not known was there. Birds on a branch above him spoke in clear words. They said Regin meant to kill him for the gold. They said the smith would come with a knife when the boy's back was turned toward treasure. Sigurd looked at Regin and saw the future as plainly as a footprint in wet snow. Gratitude had never been in the forge. Only arithmetic. Regin came to the Hoard with a smile that did not reach his eyes. He said they would divide the gold like brothers. Sigurd heard the birds again, small judges in the air. He asked Regin what share a man deserved who had sent another man to face poison while he stayed by the fire. Regin's hand went to his belt. The knife was already chosen. Sigurd was faster because the sword had been made for his hand and the lesson had been made for his life. One stroke ended the foster father who had raised him and the enemy who had raised him for this day. Regin fell among the coins he had wanted since boyhood. Sigurd did not laugh. He wiped the blade and looked at the Hoard and understood that some victories are only the first debt. The gold would draw more men with smiles that do not reach their eyes. The saga does not end on the Heath, but the dragon part does. Sigurd rode Grani down from Nidahide with the dragon's warning still in his ears and the bird's words still in his blood. He carried the sword and a smaller share of gold than the stories pretend, because a wise hero learns what weight breaks a horse's back. Behind him, the cave cooled. Ravens argued over what was left. In later tellings, he will meet a woman asleep among flame, and kings who break oaths, and a doom woven long before his birth. This telling stops where the dragon stops, with a boy who became a name, and a name that became a warning. The North remembers Sigurd not because he owned gold, but because he learned for one bright season to hear the truth when it spoke from a small throat. If you remember anything, remember the reforged blade, the track on the stone, and the heart on the fire. Remember that foster love without honor is only a longer way to the knife. This was Forgotten Fables. This was Sigurd and the Dragon. Follow the channel when you want the next country, the next age, the next story the loud world forgot.